think it's all good. We can get started. Again, yes, feel free to put your questions. I will get back to them at the end of the presentation. Um, yes, so just, yeah, in terms of your questions, feel free to put them in there. I just want to get through our presentation quickly. There's a small bit to cover, not too much. It's not that content heavy, so that shouldn't be a problem. But yes, put your questions. I'll try to get back to them as much as I can. Maybe we'll try to go through everything, but not a problem. Okay. So, oh, good. So, welcome, guys, for our Conclave 2022. Really appreciate you guys coming and joining us. I am Navjot Karod. I am a registered migration agent, and I will be talking about ACT Canberra nomination criteria. So, a little bit about myself. So, you can call me Navjot. I don't really have a preference. I work at Aussizz Elizabeth branch, which is in Melbourne, and I have been in Australia from past 12, 13 years. So, been in Australia since 2009, and I have been in this migration industry for past 5 years. I'm also a part-time law student. I'm just trying to upskill myself at the moment. And I will also put my contact details for you guys. So if you guys do have anything that you guys want to discuss with me personally, you can get in touch with me directly, or of course, come face to face. We can go from there, right? So ACT nomination 190 and 491. So I'll mostly be covering about the applications who are onshore. I will not be covering much about the offshore one. However, if you do have some questions about it, I can still give you a bit of information. But my main idea is just to cover up the new updates and how you go through the nomination criteria for the Canberra Australian capital territory. So for subclass 190, 491, both visas are being sponsored in the state. Minimum points in your EOI, yes, you still need 65 points. However, you guys would be aware with Canberra follows their own point system. So I will be going in detail about their point system as well. But the main thing to look into that minimum 65 points each. So even in your skill select UI, you need minimum 65 points. And also for the Canberra metrics points as well, you need minimum of 65 points. Of course, your age needs to be under 45, otherwise you will not be eligible. And at least a competent English as well. Moving on, so the main benchmark for the Canberra or ACT, I should say, is this. So for subclass 190, for someone to be eligible for subclass 190, first thing you need to look at is you need to be working for 6 months. The employment must be at least 35 hours per week. It needs to be continuous employment, paid positions, not the volunteer or intern position. So only a paid employment will suffice this requirement. On the other hand, for subclass 491, you can be working just for past 3 months. 20 hours per week is all good as well. And again, continuous employment and must be a paid employment as well. All right, so this is just a new update. I know maybe you guys will not be able to see the screen very clearly, but I just wanted to point out a few things. Canberra updates their list a lot. When I say a lot, normally once a financial year. So they've recently just added a few more occupations in their list, in their critical list. There's a couple of things to keep in mind with Canberra. So Canberra actually makes nominations or issues nominations at least 3 to 4 times a month. And every ANSCO group will have some sort of a cap per each per month. So, for example, we can see health and welfare service manager. It says five or less. So, any occupations which are under the same ANSCO group, there will only be five invitations per month. So, whether it is 190, whether it's 491, it's capped until five only. There will be some other occupations which will have a bit of a higher cap. But just for you guys to keep in mind that if your occupation does come under there, you need to be aware of that. That how many nominations will they be issuing each month. So this is just for your reference. Most of the time, what we can see, we have accounting there as well. However, it's only five or less. IT occupations, almost all our IT occupations are in the list. For Canberra, you'll see the yellow parts. These are the new occupations which have been added. Normally, you will see some states are not following a proper list, or some occupations or the state they'll be following their own separate list. So you guys should always be aware of Canberra. If you guys thinking to move to Canberra, you guys need to know, okay, whether or not your occupation is on the list. If it is, then it might be something very useful for you. Other things, so I'm just going to quickly glance through it, but of course you can see some teaching occupations have been added, midwives, nurses have been added. Some of the trade occupations have also been added recently. Registered nurses, most of the occupations are there as well, even with the medical technicians, ICT, and I believe there will be some trade occupations as well. So before it was only plumbers, carpenters, chef, or cooks, but now they've also added painting, bricklaying, and panel beaters as well. So again, keep in mind that these occupations are changed overall once a year at least. If they do change it, then you guys need to be aware what your occupation is, whether or not you're there, because it really matters in terms of how the points are being calculated. All right, I'm going to quickly glance through it, but you guys get the idea. Sorry, Urvish, I do not understand your question. In the what? I'm not sure what you mean, but if you can reply to that, I can help you with that. That's no issues. All right, so Canberra metrics. Canberra metrics was changed recently, but we haven't really got the new update yet. I believe it was changed last year, but since then there hasn't been any update. Canberra has already issued. There was I believe the last round was 24th of June. There hasn't been a new round yet, of course, because the financial year has just started, but it should be coming out soon. However, let's look into the points. So you guys will be aware of the normal EOI points, expression of interest, where you calculate your age, your masters, your all those points. Um, but with Canberra doesn't have points for your age, and neither they have it for your NATI. So if it's something to do with if your age is above, or maybe you do not speak NATI language, I mean like another language which has NATI, this might be something for you. But anyhow, I'll still go over it in detail just so that you guys are aware. And yes, Urvish, not a problem. All good. Thank you for that. All right, so basically, with the length of current Canberra residence, as you can see, how long you have been lived in Canberra in last 8 years. So I'm not going to go over each and everything, but just give you a rough idea. If you've been living in Canberra for 1 to 2 years, you get normally 5 points for that. 2 to 3 years, 10 points. This metrics is, of course, available on the online, but I just wanted to give you guys a bit of an update. I will, of course, give you some examples about different situations, different scenarios later on, but I just want to be able to cover the whole thing first. Remember that for Canberra, you actually do not have to be living in Canberra for you to be eligible for the nomination. However, you must be working in Canberra. So there's a bit of a distinction there. If you can see the last part of this residence requirement, people living in New South Wales, where there is about 30 minutes commute, may also be able to claim these points. However, you will not be able to claim points if you are living outside Canberra. Yeah, basically, if you're living outside Canberra above the 30 minutes, you will not be able to claim it. However, you may still be able to be eligible. Of course, we will look into that as well. Next bit is your English proficiency. So with the English proficiency, if you have superior English, you get 15 points, for proficient 7, and for competent, no points, right? If you have a spouse, so if your spouse has 6 each, you get 0 points. I apologize. Nothing that I can do with that. But your spouse does need a 7 each or 8 each for you to get some points regarding that. So if you do have a spouse, it does increase your points, yes, even though they may not have a skill assessment. However, in a normal EOI points, you guys would be aware that they need 6 each and a skill assessment, then you get 10 points. However, with Canberra metrics, it's slightly bit different. Having a spouse may benefit you in Canberra, but of course, it really depends on your individual circumstances. So having a spouse, again, superior or proficient is mandatory if you are claiming points for that. If it's just a 6 each, you will not be able to get it. Is your nominated occupation on the ACT critical list? This is very important, of course, not only for you to be eligible, but also for you to gain points as well. Majority of your points will be gathered from here. If your occupation is on the list, you get 20 points directly. If not, you get 0 points from there. Moving forward, also let me know, guys, if you guys want me to slow down a bit. If I'm going too fast, I'm happy to adjust it for you. That's not a problem. If there is a small business owner, again, with a small business owner, if you're owning your own business, you may also be eligible for it. However, your business has another restrictions there. You must be at least a 50% owner for your business. Must be profitable. For 190, you have taxable income needs to be at least $26,000. Of course, there's much details in there, but I'm not going into too much detail about this. But feel free to give me a call if you guys would like to discuss about that as well. So next, moving forward, is our length of ACT employment. So if you're working from 6 to 12 months, you get 5 points. For 12 months plus, you get 10 points. Remember that this employment is different than working in your own employment. I just want to put a bit of an emphasis there. You just need to be currently working technically for this employment. It does not need to be in your own occupation. As I mentioned in the second point, working in any occupation just needs to be working 20 hours per week. That's all, right? Once this is shown, for example, if you're talking about 491, you need to have at least 3 months. For 190, you need to show at least 6 months. But that is a different scenario. You need to meet both. You need to meet the minimum benchmark, which I mentioned at the start of the presentation, and also the points as well. And I will give you the minimum points requirement as well for Canberra, but I just want to go over it just so everyone understands um, with this one. Now, this one is about your own nominated occupation. So, nominated occupation, if you are working in your own occupation, your nominated occupation, you will get 20 points for that. And remember, other thing that I want to tell you is, let's say that you have been working for 12 months and you're applying your nomination application today, and you only found your employment or your nominated occupation in past 3 months. So in past 3 months, let's say I'm a business analyst and I found job. I've been working part time for past 6 months, and now I've got a full time job. And then, yes, so in past 3 months from the date of applying, I need to be working in my own occupation, and I can still claim points for that. This is separate to be. This is separate from the uh, for the length of employment. In this one, you can be working any occupation. This one, it's mainly about your own occupation. If you're working in your occupation, you get points. Other thing is, if you are working, I want to put the second last bit. So on the right, you're working in an occupation that has an M score skill level 1 to 3. You must have a territory qualification relevant to your occupation. Your relevant qualification must be recorded on your Home Affairs EOI as well. So if there is an occupation which is a skill level 1 to 3, of course you can still claim points for that. Not many points, of course. There are only 5 points, but yeah, more the better, of course. And if you're not working in your own occupation, you will not be able to claim. So this can be not applicable. All right. So having a spouse again comes back, even though they do not have a skill assessment, it can still benefit you. As I mentioned, um, they just need to be currently working in any occupation at any skill level. They just need to be working 20 hours per week, and it needs to be in the last 3 months of immediately applying for your metric submission. So if you're applying today, in past 3 months, you just need to be working minimum 20 hours per week at any skill level, any occupation. So they'll be able to help you there. All right, moving forward. So for a qualification, Australian qualification, if you've studied from Australia, if you've done a bachelor degree here, you get about 10 points. If you've done a master degree here, you'll get about 15 points. And years of study in ACT, you get also points for that. And of course, it doesn't really have to be um, just a normal study as well, as it clearly states. In your professional year as well, you, for example, IT students who have studied master's degree in Victoria or in any other state, and they would like to move to Canberra or ACT, you can actually go do your professional year there, and it will be considered as a study, so you can actually claim points for that. For 1 year professional year, 1 year study, you'll be able to claim 5 points there as well. Sajan, I'll get back to you. I really appreciate your questions. Yes, I do want to keep you guys engaged a bit, but yes, I just want to finish everything and answer all in go. Keep putting more questions. I'm not that far in terms of my presentation, so there's no issues. If you have family members, Australian citizen, permanent residents, you also get points for that. And if you have invested in some assets in Canberra, you also get points for that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. Pretty straightforward. So here is I just want to explain you about a person, Mr. Singh, as a skilled partner as well. So this Mr. Singh came to us. He's been living in Canberra for 4 months. He's claiming 5 points for that. His English, 8 each, equivalent, 79 each. He's got 15 points for that. He's got also has a partner who's got 7 each as well. So we can claim 5 points for that. Nominated occupation, let's say Mr. Singh is a IT professional. He also has 20 points for being on the list. He's got employment, so he's been working in any occupation for 12 months, and he's got 10 points for that. With ACT employment, I'm claiming for skill level 1 to 3. So skill level 1 to 3, if you guys want to find out about that, you just have to know basically thumb rule would be that if the occupation requires you to have some sort of a qualification, it's mostly likely to come on skill level 1 to 3. If it doesn't require you have a qualification, then it's not going to be skill level 1 to 3. You can go on the abs.gov.au to find out more about that occupation, but we're more than happy to help you with that as well. So let's just say, for example, he's getting 5 points from there. ACT employment, so yep, 5 points. Spouse, partner employment, so he's just Mr. Singh has a partner as well who's been working in past 3 months in any field, got 5 points there. Mr. Singh also has a master degree, which he's done, got 15 points there. Length of ACT education. So, for example, let's say Mr. Singh was an IT professional. He's done his professional year from Canberra and he's got 5 points there as well. So, this will be a very ideal situation with someone who has been living in Canberra for 1 year and has also been, um, has also studied for 1 year. Just want to say he's got 85 points. 85 points would be good points in terms of 190, subclass 190, given that you still meet that benchmark that I started at earlier. For subclass 190, you still need to work 6 months prior to applying for your metrics. For 491, it can be just 3 months as well. So let's assume that Mr. Singh has been working for 12 months full time. So this can be a really good occupation, really good application for 190. If you're not thinking 190, it can be a good occupation. I mean, good application for a 491. All right, moving forward. So we have another case study, Mr. Khan, who is a single applicant, has also been living in Canberra for 12 months. He's got a teach equivalent, doesn't have a partner, got nominated occupation for 20 points. He's got ACP employment, 10 points. He's got skill employment again, 1 to 3 points. 5 points from there, no spouse, master's degree 15, and let's say that he's also studied from ACT. He's got 5 points there. He's got 75 points. So 75 points again, it can be a good application for 491 or even a 190. I'm not putting an occupation there because the occupations really depend on different circumstances. Some occupations are not that competitive, so maybe a 75 points would be enough. 70, 75, 80 points would be enough. However, there could be other occupations, for example, accounting or some other IT occupations where 75 may not be enough. However, one thing I really like about Canberra is, or ACT, I should say, ACT posts their metrics or their points invitations every time. So every time someone gets an invite, every month they issue 4 invites. They will send their data. So they're very transparent. You will also know about your each occupation, how many points they're at. So just so that you can keep a track on how the other applications are going, whether or not there has been any invitation at all for that particular round. Again, yes, Canberra, I would say personally, I have seen that ACT is one of the most transparent, um, has the most transparent nomination criteria. Pretty straightforward. As long as you meet the criteria, you have good documentation. There are minimum margin of error, but I will, of course, get into that as well. All right, now moving forward to another applicant, Mr. Khan, um, who is also a resident in Canberra, however, doesn't have 12 months. So we don't get any points for that. We've got 8 each, yes. We've got nominated occupation, yes. We've got skilled employment, yes. We've got master's degree, yes. He's only got 60 points. It's not a good time anymore where people were getting invitations at 60. I remember about 2 years ago, people got invitations at 50 points by just living there for 3 months, just working for 3 months. People got 491 invitations, good times. However, now 60 points are not enough. Of course, you need minimum of 65 points. So if you're not meeting points from something else, you still need to meet 65 points. Minimum margin is 65 points. Let's forget about 190. This application will be a 491. Maybe, however, you will need to uh, work for or get another 5 points from somewhere else just so that they can meet the minimum 65 points. I hope I'm unclear with everything. So yes, again, this is what I wanted to talk about, the realistic figures. Uh, Realistically, as I mentioned, that most of the applications for 491 will be picked around 65. So 65 being the minimum, 65 plus, you're all good. Of course, keep a track on the invitations which are being issued. For 190, minimum 85 points. Um, some occupations may be a bit less, but I would still draw the line at 85 points. If you do have 85 points and have been working for 6 months, you will have a great chance at Canberra. Okay. So rejections, of course, there are times when the nominations get rejected. The main reasons for that would be the current employment. So the employment was not genuine, or there was not enough documentation, or there were too many documentation. Maybe what Canberra is asking about, let's say they're talking about showing your residence proof. However, you're not providing related to that, you're just providing something else. That might be another reason. Plane tickets to show that you have traveled. These things really do not matter. Canberra, they want proper documentation, proper renamed everything. And the better the agent who can rename everything, write everything properly, and then go for it, the better the application. So if you have everything number wise, only upload what you really require. Don't really have to worry about uploading other photos or anything else. Don't need to do that. Don't need to go too much in detail. Just upload what you really need and make sure it's properly documented. Of course, a statutory declaration is also required for a genuine employment, and yeah, that will also increase your chances about that as well. Other thing I want to talk about is, of course, if you have a spouse as well, you need valid, you need to provide your marriage certificate, their living proof, uh, their employment details as well. If you're claiming points for that, of course, a 7 each requirement if you're claiming points for that as well. And your master's degree or bachelor's degree, whatever it is, you also need to be applying, proving that as well. Canberra nomination application normally cost about $300. So be prepared to pay that as well. And that's about it, I believe, from my end. Thank you for your kind, um, you know, thank you for your patience. Thank you for letting me go through everything properly. I hope I did really give a bit of information there. I've got my contact details there, of course. You can get in contact with us. And of course, also leave me a good review as well if I've been really helpful with you guys. All right, I'll just go quickly with the questions and everything. I will try to answer as much as I can. If it's just out of the topic, I will not be answering it. I'll still answer it, but I would like to keep it with Canberra only, just so that because everyone is here for Canberra, I want to mostly talk about Canberra only, just so that everyone can understand or maybe have a different scenario in mind, and then yeah, it's just useful information. Okay, so I'll start with Vishy. Hi, Vishy. Thank you for joining us. So I'll live in Queensland with Masters in Science in IT there. Now I'm working from home for a New South Wales company. Is it a good to move to ACT to get PR in future? Thanks. Vishy, as I mentioned, living is not really an issue. You're working in New South Wales company, that may be a thing. So maybe, of course, you need to look at your Queensland criteria, whether you are meeting the criteria there or not. However, for ACT, as I've shown you the points, how they work, points need to be high as well. And of course, you need to show that you're currently working in Canberra. So employment is mandatory in terms of claiming points or even what the nomination criteria, but living can still be outside, but that's okay. Just really depends on the points. But employment is mandatory. So if you're living in ACT and working in a New South Wales company, may not benefit you. However, if you're working in New South Wales, I mean living in New South Wales but working in ACT, that may help you, right? So I hope I answered that question for you. One question is that if I'm looking forward to get speedy PR through state nomination for accountant with 85, 90 points, I should be looking away from ACT. I wish yes or no, because as I mentioned, with accountants, the last time I checked, the point systems are very high for accountants in Canberra, and they're only issuing about 5 points, and they really do not have that much seats allocation to play with as well. So if there's something else that you would be eligible for, I would of course recommend that. However, before knowing all the state's criteria, don't jump into a rush decision. Make sure you consult with us prior to moving. I don't want you to move and then thinking, oh, there's nothing there anymore. So yeah, there might be something for you. Feel free to get in touch with us. We'll be able to help you for that. But yes, with ACT, it might be a bit difficult given that the points you will not be able to meet because Canberra ACT does have a higher points uh, for accountant. Yes. All right. Moving forward, Movish again, ACT points in addition to normal points we calculate for the country as a whole, or the normal points are not gonna counted in case of ACT. So the normal points are counted in terms of your EOI, right? So EOI is of course a first step that you do, right? That's where you apply for your visa application. But Canberra metrics have their own points. So at any given stage, you still need to be meeting minimum criteria for both, anyways. However, the criteria for the nomination is just a bit different. You still need to meet um, the state criteria plus the skill select EOI, the other EOI system that you're referring to. Yes, so both of them still need to be, you still need to meet minimum for both of them, right? I've heard that job opportunities are mostly for the PR citizen in ACT. Is it right? Yes, it can be, of course, but it really depends on that. Really depends on the occupation that you're looking for, Sergeant. Because ACT, because Canberra is our capital city for Australia, most of the politicians or even like a bit of a higher um, uh, positions, I would say, um, they are living there. In terms of the company, it really depends. It really depends on your employment. Really depends um, on your occupation. Also, remember that if you're targeting a 491, you actually don't need to be working in your own occupation as well. So it really depends case by case. Uh, I would suggest to just get in contact. We can, you know, see a few things. However, Canberra metrics, if you are targeting 491, then that could be helpful because with Canberra, you just need a minimum of 65 points, and that doesn't really require you to be working in your own occupation as well, right? If I'm living in Melbourne, Nick says, if I'm living in Melbourne, can I move to Canberra? What are the chances of PR? I need to study there. Yes, Nick. I will just go back just for everyone's reference. So if you're living in Melbourne and you wish to move to Canberra, remember that you still need to get minimum of 65 points. If you are on a TR, yes, you will have full work rights, so there's more chances of you getting a 190. However, if you are on a visa which has limited work rights, for example, a student visa, you may not be able to get 190 because your work rights are not enough, right? You can only work part-time. So that might be a bit of a situation there. However, yes, so studying is not mandatory. Again, that's not that what we're looking for. What we're looking for is at least minimum 3 months of employment 491 and at least 65 points. So regardless of wherever you get 65 points, if you get 65 points, you get 3 months, you will be eligible for that, right? I will move on to Akriti. First, husband and wife, IT students planning to migrate to Canberra. Is it a good plan or a bad plan? Planning to do PY in ACT? Should we move to Canberra or elsewhere? Okay, Akriti, as I mentioned, having a spouse does really help you. If you both have, if you both are doing PY, I'm guessing you guys in early stages of your TR. If not, you may have applied your TR. Yes, I believe Canberra would be a really good option for you because, of course, if your partner has 7 each and also they can be working in any occupation, you still get points for that. So, of course, 8 each is mandatory, and I'm not sure whether you've done masters or bachelors. So, as long as you have the minimum points, you should be all good. If you roughly, let's go back to our Mr. Singh. So if this is something that will look like in terms of um, your metrics, if this is something that you can achieve, then yes. Of course, it really depends on your occupation as well. Um, Whatever occupation is, IT, basically all IT occupations are there in Canberra, so I don't really need to. You don't really need to worry about that too much. But yeah, good option. Okay. Maureen, are graduate programs considered as a nominated occupation full-time employment? Um, I've got asked this question before as well. I don't really see why that would be a problem because it's still a skilled employment. Um, it's still in your nominated occupation. Only difference that I see in terms of a normal employment or a graduate program, the only difference in that employment is with graduate programs, you may be transitioning into different areas. So a graduate program who would be running for next, say, let's say 2 years, may have 2 or 3 transitions in between. In terms of your employment duties, it may have an impact on that. However, if it's sort of the same employment duties you're doing, end of the day, I don't really see that being a problem. But really depends on the occupation which you're referring to. So you can get in contact with us. We'll be able to help you with that. Kushbu says, I have a positive skill assessment for only last 2 years. I've not provided my previous employment for vector assessments. And I have total years of experience, 7, and I claim 3 years of experience. This is related to vector assess, completely different. Kushbu, I'm not sure how this is relating to ACS, but it's okay. If you answer it. I provided skill assessment for only last 2 years. I believe you're referring to in your normal EOI. So in your EOI, if you got the relevant documentation to prove your points, I don't really see that being an issue as long as it is a skilled employment that you have done. If it's done through vet assess, I'm not sure why you didn't. Yeah, but that's okay. Just need to make sure that it needs to be in the past 10 years as well. Can I claim 3 years? So with this skill assessment, there is no requirement that for the EY purposes that it needs to be also assessed. So if it's a skilled employment, you can still claim it. That's not an issue, but just need to be aware of the dates. What are your dates in terms of claiming it? Any possibility for offshore accounting or private tutor, Ramesh? Ramesh, I apologize. In terms of the offshore application. So with offshore applications for subclass 190, 491, there might be opportunities. Of course, you still need to figure out how many points you have. But for 190, I believe you need about 3 years of experience, and for 491, you need a job offer for Canberra. If you're referring to offshore application for Canberra, that is the point system, and we'll need to figure out your points, how many points you have. But that's okay. You can get in contact with us. Steph says, does Aussizz have a program for getting applicants related jobs in Canberra? Unfortunately, not. No, we do not have such program for getting jobs. Sorry, Steph, but what I always tell my clients is applying jobs is a full-time job in itself. Okay, so sit 9 to 5, apply as many jobs as you can, apply 80, 90, 100. If you're applying less than 100, I don't really think you're serious. Some people apply for 4 or 5 jobs, they get rejected, and then they say, oh, I'm not going to get a job. But trust me, I've been in Australia enough time. I've been in Australia since 2009. Most of my friends, family, they are in Australia. So even when they have been looking for jobs, I've told everyone to keep applying, regardless whether they are permanent residents, whether they're citizens, whether they're international students. Um, doesn't really matter. You need to keep applying jobs. Does not matter. You could get rejected 80 times and still get a good job. I know plenty of people who have that, right? So um, just work hard. You'll be fine. Okay. Okay, Pooja, what about masters in civil engineering, study, career, and sort of which city is good? I want to get admission in student days. It's down. Any suggestions from your side? City is good. Get admission. Pooja, I'm not sure whether you are onshore or offshore, but if you are thinking to move to come from offshore in Australia, I would recommend to move into a regional area. Maybe move into a different state which actually prefers graduates. You do have an engineering background, so there should be other states who are willing to sponsor you. I'm not going into too much detail about that because I only want to focus on the ACT part, but more than happy to help you with that as well. Just so that everyone can see, just show my contact details so everyone can get in touch. Trying to wrap up, I know. Uh, okay, last question for everyone. Living in Canberra for 1 year, work in IT more than 6 months, got 7 each as well. Should I apply 190 or 491? Um, Jaydeep, yes, Jaydeep, try aiming for 8 each at least. I'm not sure which occupation you have though. Um, you can try for 190 because at the start of the financial year, normally the points are a bit low in terms of getting invitations. So maybe you can try 190 first. However, for 491, you should still be okay. I believe you do have enough points, but I just want to make sure your 7 each is not enough. You may need to get 8 each. Remember, you still need to get 85 points. Okay. And of course, a 3 months employment as well. You've been working with 6 months in an IT company. That's all good. I think your profile looks good. Maybe just increase your 8 each. You'll be able to claim points, and the higher the points, the better it is. Okay. All right, so that's all from me, guys. That's thank you. Not a problem at all. I really appreciate you guys asking me questions. If I missed anything, that's okay. You guys can get in contact with me. I'm more than happy to help you. There's my contact details. I work in Elizabeth office, and then yeah, I am based in Melbourne. However, if you can come face to face, I do prefer that. However, if you can meet, if you want to do online, I do not mind online as well. It's just the face to face. I do prefer it a bit better. And yeah, if there's anything else, yeah, give us a call. And thank you so much for being part of our event. Please give us a review, and then of course there'll be more sessions happening tomorrow. Feel free to join that, and yeah, ask a lot of questions. Keep asking a lot of questions. The more you ask, the more you know. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm going to be ending that, and then take care. Wish you all the best, and I hope we get a lot of Canberra 190 49 months for you guys. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye.